SeaJay, your favorite scuba diver here with Deep South Divers. We are working on Vita Felice today. She has an interesting growth pattern on her hull, something that we don't normally see. This looks like standard soft growth, but it is not. It is a hard crust. It is a type of fast-growing coral. And you can see here right at the chine, that's right where the side here meets the bottom, there's a big difference in the growth pattern. Underneath it is much, much worse than it is on the sides. And that tells me that the previous diver was probably waterlining the boat, meaning that he was cleaning the sides and not the bottom because he figured that the client would never know. Here's an example of what we're up against. You can see I take out my small blade there. It was a 2.5 inch scraper made by Purdy, P-U-R-D-Y, all stainless steel. Taking that stuff off of there. Again, you see here the side is much cleaner. That's about 2 months worth of growth, and underneath it's more like 6 months worth of growth. That stuff is hard, it's flaky, it's like cornflakes, all stuck to the bottom of the boat here. That is one of the shafts on the vessel. I've got a zinc there that's still good. That's great news. Of course, she should have 2 zincs on each shaft. That's pretty standard in the industry, but I'm just happy to see 1 functional zinc. What I'm looking for here, I know that the zinc was put on just a few months ago, so what I'm looking for here is obvious signs that they cleaned off an area on an otherwise dirty shaft to install a zinc. And I don't really see anything there that hints that the area around the zinc is cleaner. The whole thing is just kind of crusted over and nasty. Props are in terrible shape. You see there that there's a crust over some 1/2 inch and 3/4 inch barnacles. Give it an initial scrape there and you can see the bases from the barnacles. We had a real hot summer. Taking that into account, we're still looking at 4, 5, 6 months worth of growth here on the very bottom. And then when you get up to the transom here, you can see it's much cleaner along the transom. So the boat was definitely cleaned along the sides, what we call the gunnels, and the stern. See, there's that hard line of difference in growth. So the stern, or the transom rather, is fairly clean, just a couple months old from cleaning, and the sides or the gunnels are also the same way, but underneath here, that's months and months worth of a type of growth that we see there. See on the sides how much cleaner it is. We call this stuff sharkskin, and it'll settle into metal pretty badly. Fiberglass isn't quite as bad, but pretty much this boat, I'm going to have to scrape everything. Go over pretty much the whole thing with a 2-inch blade. This 12-inch blade that I've got in my hand there, it'll handle the sides, but not much of the bottom. We brought with us today a special tool called a Remora, and this is a friend's company, and he's developed this underwater lithium-ion powered device. I'm going to turn it up to looks like a 2 there. And I'm going to see how this particular head or this particular brush works on this stuff. There's some barnacles here and there, but not a whole lot. The brush that I have is a number 3 hybrid brush. It has these little plastic blades in there that are designed to cut through hard growth. Quite a bit of torque going through my hand there. The machine is pretty cool. Of course, it'll run for hours on a single charge. You can tell that a number 3 brush with the blades built in other words, a hybrid brush, it takes a long time to cut through this stuff. Now I'm going really slow here, and you can see by the clouds that it takes off a lot of the stuff, but it kind of rubs it off instead of cutting it off. And it is super, 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 super slow. I'm getting some results with this hybrid brush. The brush sometimes wants to jump around when it hits a patch of barnacles and stuff. But I'm doing my best to hold it up against the hull there and use the plastic blades that are built in to cut those barnacles and such. I'm going to change this hybrid brush. There's a good view of what the brush looks like. I'm going to change this hybrid brush out for a number 4 plain brush, which is a stiffer brush, but there's no blades in it, right? There's no plastic blades. We get a lot of clients who ask us about using plastic blades, and I find that they don't work very well, they don't cut very well, and they certainly don't, they get chiggered up, right? So they scratch. But here's a number 4 brush that I'm going to use in its place. Now, keep in mind, I've spent a lot of money on this tool, and I've had to charge it every day. And now I'm wasting a lot of time, putting it together, changing out brushes and that kind of stuff. But let's give the number 4, which is their stiffest brush. Let's give the number 4 a shot against this hull and see how that works. Now you can tell that it's taking stuff off, right? Because of the clouds that are in the water. All that stuff is getting knocked off, but it's kind of just rubbing it off. Now, as compared with boats that are covered in oysters and barnacles, this is fairly mundane growth. But it's stuck on there pretty good, this hard shell, this hard casing that gets broken off and kind of comes off like cornflakes. You can see that the number 4 there just kind of rubs off the top layer of that stuff, but it never really gets much of it. I love this tool for a variety of reasons, but this shark skin stuff, this coral, it doesn't do any good there at all. I did end up trying it on a number 3 setting too, and didn't do much good. I'm going to put the tool away here because I'm tired of messing with it. And I'm going to go back to what I know works, which are my 2 blades. I have a 2.5-inch Purdy stainless steel blade for detail work. And then I have my 12-inch stainless steel blade. It's a drywall knife is what it is. But I check my edge there, make sure there's no dents or dings because that'll scratch the paint. And now I'm going to shave the bottom of the boat. And you can tell that stuff comes right off with the blade. Now when it gets too heavy, when this stuff gets too heavy to push through with the 12-inch, I'll just use the corner, or I'll use half the 12-inch, so I'll effectively have a 6-inch blade in my hand. Or sometimes I'll tilt the blade so that its angle of attack gives me 6 or 8 inches or 10 inches instead of 12. But here I am working some detail with my 2.5-inch Purdy. And you really see here, what that stuff looks like when it's flaking off. It looks like soft growth, but it is most definitely not. Start on one of those propellers there. And you just got to have patience and bang this stuff off. Just sit down there and do the job. Now I'm not rubbing this stuff off like the tool does or like a brush does. I'm cutting it off. I'm cutting it at the base. And sometimes I'm using some force behind my hand. This particular tool has a weighted handle. There's actually lead and steel and metal in the handle, and so the tool actually has some weight, and so that there's some impact behind the tool, and that really helps to cut this stuff off pretty well. And you can see there's shiny metal underneath, which is a great sight. And of course things are starting to look like they're supposed to. I noticed here in the shaft there are pits in the shaft. You can see these little pits. See them? That's corrosion on the stainless steel shaft, and I wanted to make sure that they were in fact corrosion and that they're not some kind of barnacle or something that's stuck on there, a barnacle base. There's definitely corrosion on that shaft. That tells me that at one point or another it went without shaft zincs for quite a while. Now, I'm running low on gas here, but you can see the prop starting to look like a prop again. And I've got a whole other side to do on this vessel, so there's a lot more work to be done. I'm going to finish this boat on another day, though. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next video.